Finally tested negative for COVID today, thank God. And ready to get back at it here. Still kind of congested today, but happy Monday, and I finally get to work out again, which is a good thing. Um, so we have Kiko out here in the East Pacific, really the only show in town right now. The Atlantic is really quiet. Um, forgot to get my pen going this morning. Sorry about that. There we go. So Kiko out here, can't draw on it, of course. Moving to the north here, northwest. Not likely to have major impacts on the Hawaiian Islands. We look at the upper level pattern or mid level pattern here. There's a like an upper level low or mid level low out here to its west, which is forcing Kiko to move to the northwest or north. And there's a lot of dry air surrounding it as well. So it's pretty small out there, and it's big. Pacific Ocean, doesn't it? So that's that. Here's the infrared satellite picture. I can draw on this here. You see it's losing a lot of its symmetry, shear affecting it, colder waters. So, all right. So, what's going to happen with it? Here's the latest track guidance from National Hurricane Center. They outline the fact that rip currents and wave heights are probably the biggest concerns in the coming next couple days. The track here, center, likely to pass this way, but I don't think rainfall is going to be a big issue here. And the cone, the tropical storm force wind probabilities, at least a zoomed out view, doesn't show much of an impact to the Hawaiian Islands either. If we look at this a little bit closer, you can see what I'm talking about. Maybe some tropical storm force winds on some of the islands, but yesterday the probabilities were higher for the Big Island. But again, the wind field isn't that big. I really don't think there's going to be major wind impacts here. You can see what I'm talking about, the small wind field. Mostly on the northern side of the cyclone, right? And next again is the earliest possible reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds here. So I had this here twice for some reason. Here's the cone again, bigger here. So likely to be a remnant. They still played as a tropical storm out here in the northern, the Pacific Ocean, north of the Hawaiian Islands. I just don't know if it's going to be a coherent system at that point. But when it comes to wave heights, this is a model output showing the waves associated with Kiko, right? Highest waves propagating outwards. Okay, we move over time here. Some waves impacting the islands according to this model, but not as big as impacts as it could be if it was closer or was a bigger storm. You can see the extratropical cyclone to the north here, which is It's going to be having a lot bigger impacts on waves um, in the far northern Pacific here over time. So moving on to the tropical Atlantic, I'm going to first show um, the overall satellite view and talk about that a little bit next. Tropical Atlantic this morning, infrared satellite view here. A little bit of glitchy right here, but real quickly we have a deep trough here off the eastern seaboard, clearing skies with northwest flow aloft, and a lot of convection here in the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe a low pressure system developing here, likely non-tropical in nature. Just a lot of just scattered convection going on. Of course, we always have to watch this area and this area here with fronts that stall out just because vorticity can spin up. And if it sits here long enough and the front dissipates and the system becomes more tropical in nature, we could get something. I mean, we have had that this year, quite a bit actually. The rest of the Atlantic is really pretty quiet. Lots of dry air out here, right? When we look at the mid-level water vapor image, we can see quite a bit of dry air out here in the tropical Atlantic. Look at the lower level, lots of dry air here in the Eastern Caribbean, Lesser Antilles. And we have quite a bit of moisture coming off the coast of Africa here, but nothing organized really. And this convection down here is along the intertropical convergence zone. Other than that, not very favorable in the tropical Atlantic right now for development. So when we look at the outlook, it says it all right here. Tropical cyclone activity now expected during the next 7 days. And this is model guidance showing the probabilities of a tropical storm. Let's go back to tropical depression forming next 72 hours. Higher probabilities in the Eastern Pacific. I think these along here on the East Coast are going to be extratropical in nature. Although this disturbance here that I was talking about seems to be having more probabilities and maybe off the coast of Africa. But as we move through time, let's see what happens with that stuff. The one in the MDR that we were just talking about down here, probabilities decrease over time. Overall, the probabilities in the tropical Atlantic don't seem that great. And if you look at the tropical storm formation probabilities in relation to that, move through time here. Eastern Pacific looks more likely than the tropical Atlantic right now. Of course, hurricanes. Going pretty far out here. Almost nothing, right? So, if you look at the Google AI, we're going to go through different model guidance now just to show you what I'm talking about. This is a Google AI model with the Euro models as well. The GraphCast, the DeepMind. The orange dots are the European ensembles, yellow dots, European. The blue green and purple are the Google DeepMind. You can see a bunch of different little dots showing maybe a little something out there, a wave in the Atlantic, but there's no model that in this guidance that shows anything developing, even in the long term. All this far out, it's really hard to tell, but going all the way out to the 22nd, right? If you look at the euro a little bit closer here, go through it real quickly. Splashes, we have our, this is just showing precipitation, what the model thinks, and low pressure centers. A lot of convection going along on the eastern seaboard here, and in the Gulf of Mexico. And the euro, this is the operational model, doesn't show anything, right? What does the AI model show? And we kind of showed that a minute ago with the Google DeepMind, but um, it doesn't necessarily include the European AI. They've developed a low out here in the central Atlantic, but nothing of concern. GFS is kind of the outlier with this because it wants to develop a low off the Central America coast here. And it's been wanting to do this for quite a few days now, a couple days in a row. If we go back, it has a tendency to overdo this vorticity in general. Has a lot of spurious vorticity out there, and sometimes it latches on to something, but most other models indicate something's going to form where I don't really rely on the GFS to tell me specifically it's going to happen, right? So don't play into the hype about this if there is any out there. Right? So, and it wants to bring something to the Caribbean by the 24th, which is 16 days out. We have plenty of time to watch it. What is the European Ensemble with 51 members show? Has some extratropical system maybe off the east coast, and other than that, not looking. The different dots here represent um, different members and where it thinks a low pressure and pressure might be. Um, Nothing really of concern. The GFS, however, in its latest run, wants to bring something off the looks pretty robust here off the coast of Eastern Africa. But if you noticed before, it didn't show anything in the operational run, so I'm not sure why, but we'll see. We'll have to monitor this, see what happens, and maybe that's that low that it shows going up here, but doesn't really develop it much if it does. So, and you can see what I mean by all these spurious lows it wants to put everywhere. It's really hard to make out what the heck is going on to get further out in time here. And this is the super ensemble. Comparing all the three, right? The super ensemble, the GEPS, 31 members, and EPS. A lot more concerned in East Pacific than in the Atlantic at this time. And off the southeast coast and off the Gulf Coast into Mexico. Scattered showers and storms in the middle part of the country and in the northern high plains into the northwest, right? And so really, it's really nice to have this going on. So, that being said, let's see the excessive rainfall outlook where we're going to be here. Excuse me. Marginal risk off the on the west coast, Oregon into Northern California, middle parts of the United States, the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then the Florida peninsula. For tomorrow, Florida peninsula. This may be till Twilsey today. This is actually probably today. So, um, southern Florida is the only thing they're talking about with marginal risk. And then for tomorrow, marginal risk in Oregon and Idaho and Florida again. Um, Small marginal risk into Colorado and Mexico for Tuesday, and into Florida. Day 5, marginal risk in northern high plains to Montana, Colorado to Mexico again, and then South Florida. What does our severe weather look like? Day 1. We have a slight risk, so short wave moving through the flow here into Oklahoma, Kansas, the panhandle of Texas, right? And now upper Midwest here, probably mostly driven. You have a tornado risk, 2%, wind risk, 5%. Hail risk looks like the biggest risk today, with the 15% risk in the yellow area and 5% risk in the brown. Tomorrow, that risk stays in this area. Marginal risk driven by wind, hail. No tornado risk outlined today for tomorrow. We go to day 3. No severe risk outlined right now, at least for the continental U.S. And just general thunderstorms. Excuse me. So let's see. We are going to look at the overall flow pattern here. What's driving our weather? You know, we have the trough over the eastern U.S. We've been talking about that here. And high pressure building into the central part of the country. Move this through in time here. Flow kind of flattens out. We still have a trough of the east. We talked about this yesterday. We got high pressure building in the central part of the country here. Right, and so looks like the European AI wants to cut off a low in the eastern part of the country and out west here, driving warm temps way up into the upper Midwest here. Really warm temps. Then you have like high pressure really building in the middle part of the country, the 2 lows on both coastlines. That pattern eventually breaks down, but then another low moves the central part of the country and has some warmer temperatures building back in the east and the west here. So when we look at temperatures, we can look at the height anomalies associated with them, and where the negative numbers here, the cooler colors, let's just say, is where your cooler temps are going to be. Move through time, you see what happens. The reds and oranges move to the east. The cooler temps hold on the east along the eastern seaboard, but slowly get pushed offshore, and the central part of the country gets in on the heat, and then you have this low development off the east coast here and off the west coast, like we talked about, and then towards the end, it show most of the country with 850 millibar heights above normal, except for a few areas. If you look at the temperature anomaly at the surface, it should correlate to what we were looking at here. The darker, cooler colors are cooler than normal. The I don't know, hotter colors you would say are warmer than normal temps. Slowly we get anomalies higher than normal moving to the east, and Canada stays in on it. But overall, the extreme temps are kind of stay up in Canada really, and it's not going to be exceptionally hot, except for in a few areas going through the period. I know I'm going through this fast, but we have a few days during the middle of the period. This is 18 September, which is 11 days out. Looks like you may have a wedge building in on the East Coast here. We'll just have to see what happens. But in the short term, cooler than normal temps in the East Coast, eastern part of the U.S. Staying that way for quite a few days. And when we get to 5 days out, middle of the country gets quite warm up into Canada and stays that way for quite a few days. 15, maybe 15, 20 degrees above normal, if not higher, up in Canada. So that's all I got for today, guys. Not a lot to talk about in the continental U.S.